I'm Commissioner Laurie Cumbo, and you're watching the Artist Forum.
Welcome to the Artist Forum. I'm your host, Michael Inge, and today I have with me the Commissioner of Cultural Affairs, Laurie Cumbo. Hi, Laurie. Thanks so much for being here today with us.
Thank you. I'm very excited to be here with you.
First of all, I'd love to hear about your background in general, where you're from, and your career. You've had such a career, and you've been involved in so many arts organizations. Tell us about that and how your journey brought you here to the Commissioner.
Wow, all my favorite questions. So I am born and raised in Brooklyn, New York, in the East Flatbush section of Brooklyn. My parents are very artistically inclined. My mother worked for Lincoln Center as a tour guide for a number of years, and she is now an actor, as well as what's known as a super at the Metropolitan Opera. Oh, wow. And so she has been performing in productions like Aida and La Boheme for most of my adult life. My dad is a jazz connoisseur and has taught me everything that I know about jazz music and so many of the great jazz legends, which has been a large part of my inspiration in my cultural journey. And so my family is really the reason why I am in this position today, because they really promoted the arts, they really believed in it, and really recognized that it is possible to have creativity and to be an artist and to have a career in it. So many of my friends that had creative or artistic talents, their parents really kind of pushed them in the direction of that being a hobby and not something that could be a career. And so I'm very happy in this current role that my parents absolutely saw a pathway into the arts and into culture, and especially in New York City. I mean, New York City, this is the cultural capital of the world. And so I'll get back to that point. But I went to Brooklyn Technical High School, and then I went to Spelman College. And at Spelman College, I saw the Camille Olivia Hanks Fine Art Museum being built. And Camille Cosby was a huge patron and supporter of the arts, and she wanted to build a museum on Spelman's campus. And so when I was attending Spelman College, seeing this museum being built was really so exciting for me. And I felt like I could see myself potentially building a museum, of creating a museum from that college experience. And so much of that was based off of my experiences in New York City, where when I was 15 years old at Brooklyn Tech, I had an opportunity to intern at the Metropolitan Museum of Art, which was probably the most eye-opening experience for me. Just being able to leave school and to go to the Metropolitan Museum for an internship at the Uris Library was so exciting. At that time, something like the Met Gala was something that interns were invited to. So I was able to be there at that very young age. My parents came to the Met Gala. Like, we had this whole full experience of like being able to see the museum on so many levels. And then I took that experience and also worked at the Brooklyn Museum, as well as the Brooklyn Children's Museum. And so those experiences, coupled with seeing this museum being built in Spelman College's campus, were really inspirational for me. And then I did a study abroad program in Italy. Oh, wow. And I also had an opportunity to go to Egypt. And that was so incredible to see the foundation of civilization right there in Egypt, and then being able to travel to Florence, Italy. And then what really excited me was I had an opportunity to go to Bilbao, Spain. And that really was like I'm doing this. The Guggenheim Museum was building out the Bilbao Museum there. So they were going to have a Guggenheim Bilbao Museum. And so I was so inspired by that, because people traditionally always went to Madrid and Barcelona for their Spain experience. But now people were going to Madrid, Barcelona, and Bilbao to see this Frank Gehry institution. And I said, like, we could do this in Brooklyn. Like, we could build a world-class state-of-the-art museum here in Brooklyn. And I took my full graduate thesis for those 2 years at NYU and focused it solely on building a museum of the African diaspora in Brooklyn, New York. So no matter what the course was, I focused it on this museum. And so I always encourage young people, when you're in school, tailor that experience for your goals, your objectives, and the things that you want to achieve, because who really needs a paper that goes in the attic somewhere that you never really look at again? And so that document, my thesis, became essentially a business plan and a model for how to build this museum. So when I came out of graduate school, I set into motion building a multi-million-dollar state-of-the-art museum in Brooklyn that would rival the Guggenheim Bilbao. And I learned very quickly that I wasn't going to be allocated millions of dollars for my dream straight out of graduate school. So I essentially had to, I guess you could say, humble myself. And we started in a walk-up over a Head Start program in Bed-Stuy. It was a 4-story walk-up in a brownstone owned by Bridge Street Church. And that was not my vision at all. But the community loved the space, and they came for our exhibitions and programs, and that's really where I was able to see the power of the arts, particularly as a social justice tool. And so we stayed there for about 8 years, and then we moved downtown Brooklyn to the BAM 80 Arts building, which is now called the James E. Davis 80 Arts building. And we stayed there for about another 6 years. And then an opportunity came for my original dream to actually happen, which will open in 2 months. The museum will move to its world-class, state-of-the-art building, and it will open at 300 Ashland, which is right over the Apple store on Flatbush Avenue. And it's going to be part of a larger institution with the Brooklyn Academy of Music, the Brooklyn Public Library, and 651 Arts, and Mokata. And so my dream, 25 years later, is finally coming to fruition. But I also say that with so many of the young people, that we often want our dreams to happen overnight, but 25 years later, it is now growing and flourishing into the dream that I had always imagined. So it's like that African proverb where they say, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. And I really feel like Brooklyn came far with me together in that spirit of like working together. And in the midst of all of this story, I decided that I wanted to run for city council. And so I wanted to be the first artistic museum director to ever run for city government. Because I really feel that in order for your issues to be addressed, you have to be at the table. And so I wanted to be the voice of the arts in city council. And so that's essentially why I ran for office, because I wanted to fight for the arts. And once I got inside the city council, I really saw where I could make a difference. I'll just give you like an example. We have a program within city council called the Cultural After School Adventures Program. And that's where we allow each council member, there are 51, they get 5 $20,000 grants to do artistic, cultural, after-school programming in a school. And so each council member got 5. Through my leadership, as well as the leader, Jimmy Van Bramer, who was the chair of the cultural committee, we were able to expand that 5 to each council member now gets 17 CASA grants. And that's just like one example. We also have a program called the Theaters of Color Initiative, which was started by Councilmember Charles Barron, as well as actors Ruby Dee and Ozzie Davis worked collaboratively to create funding for traditional theaters of color, predominantly African American, that had never really received city funding in a way that would allow them to flourish. And so I was able to expand increase funding for those organizations, but also to invite 54 other organizations to be a part of the initiative all across the borough, so that there are now Native American, Latino, African American, Bangladeshi, Caribbean, you name it. So many organizations of color are receiving that level of funding, as well as the amount of legislation we were able to pass. The New York City Cultural Plan was something that we were able to support. So being inside really taught me on so many levels, it's important to have representation. And I really encourage the arts community not to shy away from politics or government, but to actually like run directly in. Like, you have to be a part of it. We need more artists. We need more arts administrators running for office and recognizing that our voice is so critical at the table.
Yes, wow. Well, for many of our viewers who are artists, if you could share and explain a little bit more about the Department of Cultural Affairs
Yep.
and your role as commissioner.
So the New York City Department of Cultural Affairs is an incredible opportunity to be able to share more of the cultural diversity of the city of New York right within inside the agency. So one of the aspects of the agency that I'm really proud of is our capital unit. And so we have an opportunity which is ongoing, where organizations throughout the city have an opportunity to apply for capital funding to either build a brand new museum, like we're going to see in the Bronx. You're going to see the first hip hop museum ever is going to open in the Bronx. We just cut the ribbon on the first ever brick and mortar Bronx Children's Museum. We are about to cut a ribbon on the Louis Armstrong House that's going to be opening in Queens. And so I'm really excited about those projects. In my own hometown in Brooklyn, we're going to see the opening of the Mokata Museum, 651 Arts, Brooklyn Public Library, and BAM. So that's going to open this year. And we're also going to see the Noel Pointer Foundation, which was recently allocated funding in a firehouse similar to this one, where we're going to see art programming happening there. And of course, in Staten Island and Snug Harbor, we were really very proud to allocate capital dollars there as well. So all across the city, National Black Theater, Apollo, the Studio Museum, they are all underway to receiving an opportunity to expand their existing facilities. So that's an exciting part. For me to be a museum founder, helping and working with so many cultural institutions to help them realize their vision and their dream, to be able to work with so many of the founders. Often they say we have founder syndrome, where we create these incredible institutions that are so culturally and mission-based, but often we need the support that the Department of Cultural Affairs provides to help a founder who wants to create symphonies all across the New York City, may not have all of the expertise about an HVAC system or understanding the complexities of construction and those types of dynamics. So I'm really like over the moon excited. I feel like I have the best job in the entire world because I'm able to help founders and executive directors realize their dreams and their visions and to expand those visions so that more people can be served. Yes. We also have the opportunity to develop our Cultural Development Fund. So the CDF fund is what we're most known for. It's an opportunity for us to provide expense funding, programmatic funding for so many of the cultural institutions across New York City. So every year we have a grant making cycle. I would recommend for people to start looking at our website between the months of January and March to be able to look out for when the application will come online. But this is an opportunity for organizations to receive funding to do everything from a festival, such as the Brooklyn Academy of Music's Dance Africa event that happens every year, to organizations such as there's so many great ones, like I mentioned, the Louis Armstrong House with their incredible jazz festival and events that they do. It's really an opportunity to have organizations apply for funding to do the work that really allows them to realize their mission. And so that's a process that I'm really very proud of. And I want to just add, as I've become commissioner, working with the Eric Adams administration, we wanted to make sure that as we're reopening the city and moving New York City forward, that we didn't do the traditional what happens when budgets are tight, we cut funding. We actually moved forward in a very robust way to make sure that we passed the largest cultural budget in New York City's history. $238 million in expense funding, $220 million in capital funding that was allocated this year in partnership with our borough presidents and partnership with our city council to make sure that we really push the arts forward, because that's essentially what defines New York City.
Yes.
We are also, landlord is such a challenging word, but we are also the managers, if you will, of 34 cultural institutions known as the Cultural Institutions Group. So we help manage the facilities and care for the facilities of organizations such as the Met, to the Brooklyn Museum, to the Brooklyn Children's Museum. So for me, it's always that full circle moment where I was an intern at so many of these large scale institutions, and now I am essentially the landlord for the city of New York, representing and caring for those very institutions. So those moments are very full circle. We also have an incredible public art program called the Percent for Art program that's now in its 40th year. This is an incredible opportunity for artists throughout New York City to be able to participate in actually creating permanent art throughout the city of New York. And these permanent art projects happen in our schools, in our parks, in our libraries. They're really all over the city of New York, and just makes it such a more vibrant place where art is accessible to everyone.
Yes.
And that's really what public art should do. For a kindergartner to be able to see a beautiful mural on their school, or going to a library like the Grand Army Plaza Library in Brooklyn, New York, those beautiful gold columns, that's a Percent for Art program through our public art program. So that's a real big part of what we do as part of the Department of Cultural Affairs. And just to add a final plug, we have the PAIR program, which is our public artist in residency program, which places artists within city agencies, if you can imagine, which is so exciting. We allow for space for artists to enter agencies to be able to meet with the commissioners and their teams to discuss what are some of the challenging issues within your agency that an artist with a different mindset, different set of experiences can come in and help create a work of art, a sculpture, a campaign, whatever it is, to help those agencies address those issues through an artistic lens. So I could really go on and on about all of the incredible programs that are happening. We are now gearing up for the Summer Youth Employment Program. And so I'm really proud of this program, because when I entered the City Council in 2013, there were 28,000 summer youth opportunities for our young people. And through the support of the City Council, we expanded that number to approximately 78,000 summer youth employment opportunities. And now in the Eric Adams administration, working with Speaker Adams, we've increased the amount of summer youth employment opportunities to 100,000 opportunities for a young person to be able to work throughout New York City during the summer for ages 14 to 24. And we're gearing up for applications for the Summer Youth Employment Program now. But what we're excited about is expanding the number of cultural institutions that are receiving training and building the next generation of cultural workforce young people that are going to enter into our cultural institutions through this program. So we currently have approximately 90 organizations that are participating in this program, and we want way more. We're celebrating 60 years of the Summer Youth Employment Program, and I also benefited from being a Summer Youth Employment Program participant. So it's really a great way. I know our Mayor, Eric Adams, also participated in the Summer Youth Employment Program, so many of the elected officials. So it's a program that we recognize. As I always say, we cannot continue to tell young people to say no to so many different things, from gangs to drugs to guns to all of these different things, without giving them the appropriate tools of what to say yes to. And giving a young person a job, giving them an internship, allowing them to realize their full potential and their talents, that's a real gift. When we are able to unlock that passion or that gift that a young person has been given to allow them to flourish, it really changes their life and dynamic in so many ways, because once you discover your gift, you don't ever want to lose your gift, and you would never want anyone else to lose their gift, because you recognize this is what makes me special, and this is what I want to focus my life on, and this is what I want to feed, what I want to hone, what I want to have cultivated. And it gives you a purpose in life. And it's our role in all of the different leadership roles, whether you're an educator, a politician, a cultural leader, it's our role to help young people discover and tap into those talents.
Wow, well, there's so much great information and so many opportunities. How can our viewers connect and stay in touch and find out about some of these opportunities?
Please visit us at nyc.gov/culture to find out about our grant applications, to find out about our PAIR program, to find out about our public art program. Or I would also recommend, if you're interested in the Summer Youth Employment Program, whether you're a young person looking for that employment program or you're a cultural institution or otherwise, please visit nyc.gov/SYEP. And that would be the way for you to get totally connected to all the programs that are happening throughout the city. And it's such an exciting time in New York City. I would also recommend for people to visit the Department of Transportation, as they have an open streets program. So if you have a block that you believe could benefit from arts programming, performances, to visit the DOT's Department of Transportation's website for the City of New York, and to find out how your block can become an open street this summer.
So for arts organizations looking to apply for some of those grant opportunities, what is the application process like?
The application process is such an exciting time in the Department of Cultural Affairs. I would say, as a new commissioner, I'm really excited that we have created actual reforms that are making the process easier, more streamlined, and more accessible. And just to give you an example, last year, 125 new organizations that had never received funding before from the Department of Cultural Affairs were able to be allocated a grant through this process. One of the things that's really excited about that is that in this process, 82% of the organizations that are BIPOC-led or identify as being BIPOC-led saw an increase to their baseline award. We also raised the floor from $5,000 to $10,000 so that organizations that are applying, if you receive and are allocated a grant, you're going to receive a minimum grant of $10,000. So in the first year, 125 new organizations, the ability to be able to raise the floor from 5 to 10,000, the ability to have the process more streamlined. We have a panel review process where individuals from the field have an opportunity to review the applications on an online process, which has never happened before. So this is revolutionizing the way more people can be tapped into for their talent and experience in reviewing the applications. We have also launched a brand new streamlined application, woohoo, that everybody has been asking for. Previously, the application was in 2 parts, and you would have to submit the application in 2 parts. Now it's just a 1-part application, just one application, and that's going to make it more streamlined. Some organizations we found were filling out the first part, not filling out the second part, didn't know they had to fill out the second part. So now there's one application, one deadline, and we make sure that everyone applies in that way. So that's really great. The new program, software that we have enrolled is called Salesforce. And this new Salesforce technology is going to make sure that we've got the one application, there's more space for you to fill out the application, it's easier to navigate, and it's just going to revolutionize the entire process. So we're really excited about it. We just want to make sure and just encourage individuals, you must be a 501c3 organization to apply for funding. We want to make sure that organizations understand that they've got to have their paperwork in order. And we do a number of seminars and webinars to make sure that people understand the process fully. And you can understand that process, but there's also a way for you to understand how to apply to become a panelist as well. And we want panelists from all 5 boroughs in all genres and all mediums, all levels of experience. We want younger people, we want older people, we want people from the disability community, we want people throughout New York City. And so we want to make sure that people apply. Always know that you can visit our website. You can look for us at nyc.gov/ /culture, and you can find out all of this information. It's right there for you.
One more question that we ask most all of our guests is if you could offer any advice or words of guidance to emerging artists out there, or also in this case, arts organizations, what would you offer?
I would say to continue to stay true to your mission. Your mission is very important. I would say, as I stated earlier, it's also still very important to remain politically and civically involved. When I was the leader of MoCATA, I frequently attended my community board meetings. Every community in the city of New York has a community board. Find out about your community board, participate, have your voice be heard. We also have opportunities for participatory budgeting. Participatory budgeting is an incredible way for you to steer your tax-paying dollars into programs and projects that you think are very necessary within our community. I would also recommend staying original and understanding the environment that we are living in right now, and how can your talent continue to propel us forward intellectually, socially, aesthetically, education-wise. Our cultural perspectives and voices are so important in terms of the shaping of society. And so I would say, like, continue to take those bold risks, continue to be the voice of the voiceless, and also how do we utilize our spaces, our creativity to bring people together? Because now more than ever, we need spaces and places and safe spaces that can bring people together to have those difficult conversations, to utilize the arts as a way to bring people together. But the art and the magic of talking about a work of art and the artist's perspective and hearing from the artist creates levels of understanding that really can't be always understood. It's a certain magic that, as they say, everything that counts can't be counted. And so that's one of those spaces. The ability to have conversations just like we're having on the Artist Forum are ways to bring people together to hear different ideas and objectives, which are so critical and cannot be underestimated.
Well, I know I'm inspired and excited to know we have someone as passionate as you as Commissioner. And thank you for being here today and talking with us. Our guest today has been Laurie Cumbo, Commissioner of Cultural Affairs of New York City. I'm your host, Michael Inge. Thank you so much for tuning in to the Artists Forum.